Hey there, crafters. Welcome back to She's Crafty Paperworks. If you're new here, my name is Jen, and I make cards and post them on the internet. This week, I am celebrating spring with bright and energetic cardstock while reminding myself that I also live in the Midwest. So early spring also means lots of rain. But that's okay, because to quote Dolly Parton, the way I see it, if you want the rainbow, you gotta put up with the rain. Before we jump into spring card making, I just wanted to say two things. One, Dolly Parton is a wise woman. We should listen to her a lot more. And two, we are moving to Tuesdays. And this is going to help both me out in the regards to the rest of my semester is really looking chaotic. So I'm thinking this would be a better day for me to post. And secondly, most of you watch my channel on Tuesdays. If, however, you are somebody who watches on the weekend and are not subscribed, I do recommend subscribing because I'm betting this change is not going to go well with the algorithm. Okay, so let's talk colors. This is the original selection I chose. I have honeysuckle, watermelon, creamsicle, sprout, harbor, and blueberry. All of these are from Concord and Ninth. I don't have a lot of Concord and Ninth inks. I have about 15, but none of them are in these colors. So I turned to my Distress Oxides, and I found nearly identical colors with, for the honeysuckle, I used Festive Berries and Abandoned Coral to match watermelon, and for creamsicle, dried marigold, and then for the blueberry, I found prize ribbon to be pretty on target. Okay, for card number 1, I used Spellbinders Oriental Lily and Wellies die. I think any boot would do. I also wanted to do different flowers, and so I went back to Simon Hurley's tulips. It's the Tulip Trio. This is the final look of the card, but it originally did not look like that. For the sentiment, I used waffle flower, but as you can see here, I started with a Festive Berries and Abandoned Coral at the top, and then blended it in with dried marigold before bringing in Stormy Sky and prize ribbon at the bottom. The reason I changed it is up against the flowers, they were so close in color, I just didn't have any differentiation between the two, and it washed out the tulips. By the way that I'm holding the brush here at the base of the bristles, that's because I'm looking to get some more intense color. When I go to blend the line, I will lighten up my grip on the bristles so that it will soften the look. I could also bring my hand down further into the handle. For the boots, I use Concord and Ninth's Buttercup, and I brought in Distress Oxides Wild Honey for the color blending. So as you can see, the color blending along with the matching tulips just didn't give me that contrast that was needed. So I was starting to recognize that at this point, my options were rather limited because I had already started gluing and I had several layers of dimension with those flowers. So greenery was ruled out, and I was hoping that if I tried different contrasting colors for the background border, that would help. It did not. And as I went through the different colors, I did choose Sprout because it was going to give me the most contrast. But I opted to go ahead and start trying to do some emergency ink blending. And if you've ever been in this situation, it is a big risk because you don't know if you're going to ultimately ruin all of your hard work. Now, I could pretend that everything went smoothly, but of course, just as I was wrapping up, my sticky note slipped and I got a little bit on the side of the sprout. The area was a little bit too tight for me to fit my mono sand eraser in there, so I opted to use my Faber-Castell Perfection eraser pencil, and it is something that a lot of artists use. It works with colored pencils, for example. It's not as reliable with different inks, but it will work with oxides very well because the oxides sit on top of the paper more. And I was able to completely erase the smudge. Once again, here is that final card. I think it's important for me to show some of the mistakes that I can make as a card maker, even though I have 30 years experience with paper crafts. It happens, and I think it's important for me to keep that stuff in there because ultimately most of our mistakes can be corrected. Despite the number of flowers involved, this card came together rather quickly. I had done all of my die cutting the night before, with the exception of the nesting die that it's propped up on, because that was pre-cut and included already in my blueberry cardstock. I covered the umbrella handle or the rod in Artistro silver acrylic marker. The flowers came from the Spellbinders Club Blooms. Once I had the centers on, I could start adhering the flowers to the card front. The clouds and the umbrella come from Rain or Shine, which is also a Spellbinders die set, and it has lots of, it has a lightning bolt, it has sun, so it's a pretty versatile die. So again, here's that final card, and the sentiment, by the way, came from Waffle Flower. Okay, for card number 3, the sun in real life is starting to wash out my color a little bit, so I'll bring it up closer to the camera so you can see the rain. The rain is what I started with, and I just used Distress Mica stain. I took the cap off and just used that to sprinkle it around. One of the things I try to encourage on my channel is blending and mixing up your dyes. So I have several different sets that I'm using here. The rainbow is Sending Smiles, and the clouds that I'm using come from, and I just got it in the mail when I was making this card, the Bundle of Joy. It's just released from Spellbinders, and it has the outline to make those 3 layers of clouds. The clouds at the bottom of the rainbow come from Rain or Shine set. I don't know why I can't say that. I've tried this 3 or 4 times now. Anyway, I just turned the clouds upside down, and that's how I was able to create a little bit more grounding of the card and more balance. The sun, by the way, also comes from Rain or Shine. For card number 4, I wanted to use a similar effect of rain as a splatter effect. I wanted it to pop a little bit more though, so I went with the darkest shade I had, which was Distress Spritz in Peacock Feathers. I also did a little bit of ink blending on the underside of the umbrellas. I also used some of those leftover flowers, and I wasn't happy with the one handle that was showing in black. That black dot in the middle of the card was irritating me. So to make it a little bit more subtle, I brought in my acrylic markers again, and I just did that in brown to break it up a little bit. The next 2 cards use copious amounts of glossy accents. The die that I'm using comes from Spellbinders, and it's called Sneaking a Kiss. I use glossy accents for the umbrella as well as the background. I just used a cheap embossing folder that I had picked up from Amazon. I took my glossy accents in a bottle with a fine tip applicator, and I just went over the embossed raindrops. It did not take that long. It maybe about 10 minutes, less than. And it, for the most part, stayed on the raised levels. That's why I wanted to have that dimension so it didn't spread out. You could see that there are a few places that go off of the raindrop, but I'm still okay with it. This card can be used in multiple situations, especially with that waffle flower sentiment. This next die comes from Spellbinders Small Die of the Month Club for February 2025. I wanted it to look like she was jumping in a puddle. So using that glossy accents, I created layers to create ripples. And before I did that, I used Distress Embossing Glaze in Prized Ribbon. It came out much darker with the addition of the glossy layers, but I wanted those layers to add that ripple effect as if she were jumping in water. And then I used water drop gemstones to also add to that effect. Now, I think this card only makes sense when you see the inside sentiment. It says, "Thanks for helping me find the fun in every storm. You're the best." And I made this on my Cricut. I couldn't find any messages in my stamps to convey the message that I wanted. If you would like to learn how to use your Cricut to create inside sentiments as well as an outside logo, I will link the video up above or in the description. All right, if you made it this far, I just want to say thank you for watching, and remember, I will see you next Tuesday for more content on card making. We have a lot coming up in April. I have graduations, I have birthdays, we have Easter, so lots more cards to make. I'll see you guys then. Bye-bye.